Welcome to the Local Marketing Source Weekly Update, brought to you by localmarketingsource.com.
This week's Local Marketing Update is brought to you by Scott Gallagher. Scott is the co-founder of Local Marketing Source and has become the recognized expert in providing online marketing services to local businesses. Follow Scott on Twitter @ScottGallagher5 and on Facebook.com/ScottPGallagher.
Hey, well, good afternoon, everyone. Scott Gallagher here with Local Marketing Source, and we're bringing you our weekly local marketing industry update. Now, next week's LMS member call is going to be Wednesday, August 20th at 4 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget to subscribe to our weekly podcast and our YouTube channel for any updates that we're getting there. Now, you see I got a couple more people coming in at this time. That's good. I've been really enjoying the attendance of these live calls over the last few months, and it's we're still not getting all of our audience. We only get about 25% of the LMS audience, and ultimately they tend to listen to it afterwards. But keep in mind that this is your chance to ask questions. And one theme that I've seen are those people that listen live on the calls are the ones that become long-term members of Local Marketing Source and have a successful agency behind them. Now, this week, we've got some updates going on. I'm going to talk a little bit about Yelp and what's going on with Yelp and why they're in courts and why they are being sued by investors. We're going to talk a little bit about that scary topic of Black Hat and some Black Hat SEO, but more so Black Hat social media SEO and what I do that's Black Hat, how I do it, and how I get results from it. And finally, we're going to talk about, well, this is kind of a dark call this week. You guys all know me. We're definitely very, very white hat at Local Marketing Source and at the agency. So when I bring up the term Black Hat social media and what I do, people are like, oh, well, I want to know this stuff. Well, I'll let you in on all of that. But also the Autocomplete or the auto suggest on Google. And yeah, I'm going to tell you how to hijack it so you can take it over, which is very Black Hat. And of course, it's a strategy I don't use, but like anything, these are important strategies to understand. And as you know, 90% of the SEO community is going to be jumping on these different bandwagons. And getting all this different information and try to dupe the search engine. So it's important for us to know what to do, what not to do, how it does it, how the impact that it has on the internet, how the results happen, where the search engines are going. And I feel knowing this information really gives me a lot of insight into understanding where the search engines are going and going to be. All right. So having said that, if you could just give me 3 seconds, I will be right back. Well, that literally was 3 seconds. It's the weather, man. It's just been so up and down. I had heat on a couple of days ago, and I'm trying to keep everything off, and the window's open, and all of a sudden, before I know it, it's almost 80 degrees in my office. So I had to throw the air on and open the door. All right, let's get into some update information. Let's just quickly see if there's any pressing questions. Oh, I see some people typing some stuff in, but they're holding. More people have come on. That's good. Good attendance, guys. It's nice to see you active, and like those people that missed the beginning of the call. It's those people that are active in the community. And you know, I get questions a lot about Local Marketing Source. And it took me a year to put together the initial content. Every week, I'm putting together new content and webinars and promotional material and. You know, we've got over 100 different videos. We've got over 60 hours of training, 60 different documents. And people can buy in and you know, they ask, well, is there real value, or what is the value, or what am I going to get, or blah, blah, blah. And yeah, you get all of those things. And those are nice. There's no doubt in my mind that the money you pay for Local Marketing Source, you're getting stellar education for it. You know, I mean, how much money I paid for my university degree, and this is material that actually helps people build a business, build a lifestyle, build a living for them and their loved ones and their children and whatnot. And you know, I find inspiration in the fact that I help people achieve real freedom. You know, not freedom that's in the United States of America, but real freedom. It's all a part of being an entrepreneur. I really like that. But when we really look at the value of local marketing source, I don't feel that the value for what you pay is really in the content or the resources. I mean, albeit you can download the contract for SEO with your clients, even though I don't use contracts anymore. I paid $400 per contract to an attorney. Well, it's all there. It's copy and paste. There's dozens of years, you know, probably 25 years worth of education and experience in building proposals that you can just download and plug it in. But I think the real value, guys, is what you guys are getting is being on these calls and participating in the forum, in the private forum. And there's a few things I've learned in life, whether it be the ways that we choose to communicate, whether it's the words or our physiology or our tonality, the telephone or having coffee with somebody in person. Relationships are key. And relationships are key with your children. And us as parents, we have an objective that we need to achieve. Relationship is key for your significant other. If you're an asshole, you're not going to be in a relationship for very long. But it's also important in business. And, you know, people ask me, well, Scott, what's the best way to go out and get new customers? Is it this or is it that? You know, AdWords, spending money. Well, face-to-face is going to be your best, period. So relationships are all around us. They're absolutely critical. And I look back on some of the days, local marketing source would not have existed if I was not a part of a private group at one point in time, a private internet marketing group where I met my partner. Everything that I've done in business has been successful because of the relationships that I've developed. I look at some of the relationships that have been developed in local marketing source and they're uncanny. You know, when I take guys like Ed that made an effort to go and visit with Josh Nelson and the friendship that they're building. And I know I see Ed on the line right now. I know without a shadow of a doubt the fact that he went and visited Josh for a day probably motivated the hell out of him and probably gave him more motivation and work ethic than any amount of money he's ever given local marketing source. That in itself, and that wouldn't have happened. And so I'm thankful that I have you guys coming onto the line and participating in the conversations. Sometimes it may not feel like that they're just small steps, but I promise you that the participation into the community is going to be the greatest asset you're going to get from being a local marketing source member. There's no doubt in my mind for that. Yeah, see Ed's popping up, you know, crazy stuff and this and that. Scott Meadows is another great guy, and he attributes a lot of his success to the relationships built here. So it's good that you're diligent, and it's good that you guys are coming on the line on time and posting into the group. It's very, very exciting. What is Ed saying here? Holy shit. After he went and visited Josh, he says, I got 3 new clients in 2 weeks. Wow. It's amazing. That gives me goosebumps, man. That's wild. It's amazing. I love it. All right, so we're going to talk about Yelp. And Yelp is being sued in courts for misleading investors. I mean, Yelp is a really interesting company because they're the #2 local spot on the internet next to Google. Yelp has been around in the local market space a lot longer than Google, and there's been other local sites like Yelp that just haven't flourished like Yelp. But Yelp grew for different reasons. I'm sure a lot of the more experienced internet marketers that have talked to small business owners have had conversations about Yelp and what Yelp is doing and how they are very, very aggressive with their sales. And maybe you've talked to different salespeople. Well, they are a very aggressive sales organization. And they've grown significantly and brought in significant revenue, partially due to the aggressiveness of their salespeople. But at the same time, Yelp has been in the news. I mean, Yelp is probably the best SEO company or SEO results or the results of an SEO firm on the internet. They're brilliant. They've got the ability to manipulate their internal linking structure that ultimately satisfies different needs of the search engine so they can profile what businesses are being listed on Google. They can control Google. It's not like Google likes it. They're not violating any of their terms and conditions. It's just what's built into the Google algorithm. They're very, very good at what they do. Yelp has also been in the news for reviews. And, you know, if you just look at their blog posts, well, their blog posts are a means to manipulate public information. It's a source that news sources grab information from. It's their communication channel, like most businesses. And so when we start to look at the type of content that they publish, every 3 months or so for the last several years, they've been defending themselves. You read those posts, each one is a defense towards their algorithm of reviews. Well, when this all comes together, and that they are manipulating reviews, which are the biggest form of advertising, they're favoring businesses that give them a greater revenue. They've denied it, but now they are in court for it. Their investors are taking them to court for misleading their clients. A quote made from the suit, it says, false and misleading statements about their true business and financial conditions. This is a pretty serious allegation, guys. I mean, this is all internal shit. This is, you know, the very first thing in the filing, it discusses the reviews. And it says reviews, including anonymous reviews appearing on the company's website that were not all authenticated first-hand reviews, but instead include fraudulent reviews by reviewers who did not have first-hand experience with the business being reviewed. Wow, this is coming from their investors. And this is just breaking news. There are also being claims that algorithms that are purposely designed to screen unreliable reviews did not comprehensively do so, and instead the company allowed such unreliable reviews to remain prominent while the company tried to sell services designed to suppress negative reviews or make them go away. Wow, they're being accused by their investors of asking money from their clients to get rid of negative reviews. That's blackmail. This is big stuff. This is stuff that you may end up seeing in mainstream media. And if we're going to sit back and wonder what's going to happen, where is Yelp going to be if they continue this, if they don't change? They've got to make some major changes. I don't know why this story was so buried among my sources. I feel like that this is big news. I'm gonna guess that within the next 2 weeks we're gonna see this content in the mainstream media, and Yelp may go down at some point in time as running very fraudulent businesses. Well, I think there are two types of companies in this world. There's sales-driven companies and there's operationally driven companies. Of course, that holds true. You look at any CEO that has fallen the ranks of growing at a company, they've only followed two channels, operationally or through sales. And in some cases, some financial organizations, you've seen people follow the finance route, but you never see an accountant being the CEO of a business. Maybe the finance managers or the chief financial officer will become the CEO. But Yelp is a sales-driven organization. And there's not many businesses that have flourished for a long time and not saw their demise that was not operationally driven. It catches up. But sales-driven companies tend to lead initially, and operationally challenged or driven companies hopefully prevail. Look at the case of Microsoft and Apple. I know quite a bit about their history, but the fact of the matter is, if anybody that's ever used a PC in their life and then moved over to Apple, except for one LMS student, let's see if he's on the line. No, he's not on the line. Yeah, there's a little bit of a learning curve for me for a month, but I will never, ever, ever go back. Everything on Apple is just so much easier and simpler their market share is growing exponentially compared to Microsoft's shrinking market share. Microsoft is a much smaller business than Apple, and they have been for the last 3 or 4 years. There's no question that in the race between Apple and Microsoft, Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, that had relationships as friendships back in the 80s, Bill definitely won in the 90s. He crushed Apple in the 80s. But come the year 2000, it all changed. And Microsoft will never, ever catch up with Apple, in my prediction. You will never see Microsoft as big as Apple ever again. Ever. We might not even see Microsoft in 20 years at the rate that they're going. That's mind-blowing. Same thing can happen to Google or Facebook or companies like Yelp. And I don't think that in 5 years we're going to see Yelp, for different reasons though. Yelp has got a very good back end for local and whatnot, but their social aspect, and that's what they're missing, is their social aspects. And now the fact that they are trying to capture market share and now being accused by their investors in unscrupulous ways, they've put the nail in their coffin. You guys agree? Disagree? All right. So, Black Hat, social media, Black Hat SEO. You know, I talk about these strategies, and I've probably shared every Black Hat strategy I've ever learned. And I'm very open to say that I've performed probably every Black Hat strategy that's out there. But I never have for clients. It's never made sense to me. But I do it, and I learn about it because I feel like that it's important just to know, just to have an understanding. And I feel like that the more I learn about Black Hat strategies, the more it lends me to understand the algorithms. And by doing so, it gives me the ability to really try to understand what these engineers are trying to accomplish. Assuming that an algorithm is never perfect and they're always trying to make it better. They're always trying to move to a different place. I'm always trying to figure out, well, where are they moving to? And sometimes light bulbs really go on. Well, really good companies that are well marketed, and marketed by definition as delivering an effective message that no additional questions can come up based off of the answers being presented in an area that the entire potential audience would reside. Well, that's perfect. You'll never achieve perfect. No company in the world has ever achieved a perfect marketing mix. But companies like McDonald's have done pretty damn good. So, you know, we can study and learn about a lot of old school marketing strategies and see how they apply. And I feel like that a lot of old school, you know, for example, press release marketing. Well, that's been around for decades and decades and decades. Well, it's no different than article marketing. And you know, the way people do article marketing these days is just, it's sick. We've really got to engage with the real audience. And a lot of that real audience is online. You know, I was sitting down, I'm not going to tell you where I was sitting down this morning, but I was reading the Guinness Book of World Records. And it was from the year 2000. And I always get a kick out of it because they have internet stats in there. And, you know, there was 176 million internet users in the year 2000. And I thought about that and I thought, holy crap, you know, there's 5-6 billion. How many billion smartphones are on the planet now that are all connected to the internet? Worldwide, there's only 176 million. There was only about 70 million Americans in the year 2000 that had internet access, and they were called internet users. They were their own class. Do you guys even think about internet users anymore? Is it like everybody you know an internet user? Like it's just a part of our life now? And it's even hard to conceptualize that even back in the year 2000 that we were a special group. We were internet users. 70 million out of 300 million. That's 20% of the population. That's mind-blowing to me that even back then, like, I was so on the internet and so in tune. So back to the article marketing and the aspects of it. Everything that businesses were doing even 10 years ago, we're just trying to digitize and put it on the internet because our lives are fully digitized. We're all out here now. And we all are on the internet now, at least 97, 98% of us, and at least in the United States. I have to assume that's roughly where it's at. I don't know anybody that's never been on the internet. I know a lot of people that aren't on Facebook, but they have an email account or they've surfed Google before. They've done a Google search. So Black Hat, Black Hat is a way really just to do stuff on the internet to manipulate the search engines. And a lot of people are attracted to Black Hat because it seems easier. In a lot of cases, Black Hat strategies are very easy to systematize and automate as well. Anytime you hear the word automate in the world of internet marketing, your red flag should go right up. Anything that's automated, probably not going to work. All right, just know that. Any of these tools and whatnot being sold and all these wonderful things. So the SEO community Black Hat community is really emerging right now with Black Hat social media. Even though it's not a direct factor, we know that social media does influence rankings, period. And they're a big factor of it. And it's becoming a bigger and a bigger factor. So we can influence that social media. We can create different busy restaurant syndromes on the internet. So examples of Black Hat social media would be like buying fake likes or buying YouTube subscribers, buying different plus ones from different click farms, sharing hyperlinks that pose a security threat, or using different programs that automatically follow and unfollow new accounts, or creating fake social media profiles to like and share or comment or gather information, writing fake reviews, negative reviews on competitors' pages or positive reviews on your own pages, securing social media profiles with competitors' names, getting them ranked in Google, and posting negative comments. So these are different things that marketers are doing that are Black Hat. And it does influence the search to some degree. You can go ahead and buy a bunch of fake followers. You can buy 1,000 followers, 1,000 likes, or get 1,000 shares. Just go to Fiverr.com. And for $5, you can get 1,000 new friends, and it will help. But then it requires optimizing fake accounts. So that allows other people to appear under a different alias. But you can optimize these fake accounts and make these accounts real. And get these certain accounts to rank real web properties. It happens. Fake reviews is something that I have unfortunately seen quite often. And more so in working into the online reputation management world. But fake reviews will get out there. And there are ways to make these reviews stick. And they can really hurt businesses that are out there and a potential customer and move them on to either your customers or somebody else. Now, so far, I've created a world that makes a lot of sense. If you're going to get $1,000 a month or $2,000 a month from a local business, you want them to make more money. You've got tools and ways to do that that aren't illegal, maybe questionably unethical. I remember a student in my business class that the word ethics should not be in the business dictionary. I don't agree with that, obviously. But my point is there's a lot of unethical business people that are out there. These are not local marketing source students. the guys, the women that come and join this organization, understand that businesses require real marketing. Now, where it really starts to break down is the long-term viability of these strategies. Assume you're going to buy a bunch of likes. Well, what's going to happen with those accounts? In time, you can't keep 1,000 accounts going and liking a whole bunch of businesses all over the place and all over the internet without building a pattern that is not normal. These search engines are constantly looking for normal patterns, normality in terms of human beings. They may not be there on the social side today, but what happens when they do? Then all of a sudden, you've got penalties coming to you. I'm telling you right now, if you're going and you are doing any of these black hat strategies that I've described, that a lot of them work today, I guarantee you, I will bet both of my businesses on it, on the fact that those strategies are going to hurt you more down the road. And think about all these businesses that have been created about cleaning up all the backlinking strategies because people did not understand and they just did what they were told and utilized automated software like Traffic Geyser to get YouTube videos to rank well. Well, guess what? Those guys are, well, not the owners of Traffic Geyser. They're doing just fine. But anybody that put their businesses on those business models are eating ramen noodles right now. So black hat, social media SEO is definitely going to hurt us in the future. Now, as any ethical marketer, I feel like it's our fiduciary duty to help the search engines create a better environment for their users. It only helps me in the long run. So this is what I'm doing, and this is what my agency is doing to address the black hat SEO strategies. And I'm making a call for any white hat marketers that are out there to follow along with this. Almost every social media site has the ability to mark items as spam. Don't be afraid to use that if you sniff out anything that's legitimately spam. It helps their algorithms. If you need to, don't be afraid to contact the legal department of these social media sites if you find any competitors that are engaging in black hat strategies. There's nothing unethical about that, but you can get them shut down. And definitely report the spam. There's a web spam reporting form. Just Google web spam reporting form on Google. And guess what? People that are conducting spam ultimately are going to get hurt. All right, now the last thing I wanted to talk about is the autocomplete or the auto-suggest feature on Google. That's when you start typing something in. A lot of marketers haven't realized the power of that tool. And I mean, watch people when they do Google, when they go on Google, you know, everything from experienced users to beginners and novices and amateurs, and how they utilize auto search and how they use the mouse instead of just a keyboard when typing and items like that. Autocomplete was a feature in test, and then we saw all the search engines do it. So you've got to assume that it's a feature that's going to stick. It's a feature that adds value to the users, and it's algorithmic driven. So yeah, there are ways to influence the autocomplete. Now, autocomplete, you could really start to wrap your head and think of a lot of black hat strategies again. I'm giving you some dangerous tools right now. Make sure you use them fairly. For example, if in a local community and you had people from, let's say, 20 different IP addresses in a local community all search for a chiropractor's business name with the core term in front of it, when somebody locally starts looking up that core term, chiropractor, your branded client's name is going to show up. Holy shit, that's powerful, right? Well, that's how it works. I do suggest that you do some testing with autocomplete manipulation to get an understanding of how it works. But we can use that to our advantage. We can use it in ethical ways. So, unethically, first off, what we're seeing is autocomplete features being set up for branded names and having scam or complaints after it, such as for competitors, for business reputation and whatnot. I definitely don't recommend doing any of that because I do feel like eventually you're going to get caught. But there are positive ways that we can do this to influence it in ethical marketing ways. But it's risky. And for example, if a television ad or a radio ad promoted, search for this term, and you know that the business is already being ranked and you get results to get that out, that's going to influence auto completion. Are you reading between some of the lines here of what I am making suggestions? This is where marketing prowess really comes in, and intelligence is really required to think about your clients and specifically what businesses are being exposed. So, imagine, let's say you're an attorney, and, when people in your area begin to type phrases like personal injury, the first autocomplete phrase could be, personal injury, Gallagher and Gallagher. Just by having and influencing some of those searches, and that would definitely improve your rankings. You can also ask people that you do certain searches using phrases that you prefer, offline and online. You could pay people to do searches. I wouldn't do that one. I'd stay away from that. And you could also use autocomplete and auto-suggest to go after some of the low-hanging fruit of keywords that are out there for your clients. So don't forget that tool, guys. It's a good one. But that is going to come to the conclusion of this week's update. So I see we've got some questions here. I'm going to go ahead and answer some of these questions. We don't have any hands that are up, all right. Okay, Mike's asking, with respect to keyword search, are the tools like the Google keyword tool still the best to start with? With all the changes in their research tools recently, what other tools do you recommend? Well, Mike, keyword research, well, we just had a conversation on that. So the autocomplete tool is very good. But we're talking about local businesses here. And local businesses are typically small businesses and focus in on a specific product or a service. Chiropractors, plumbers, dentists, garage door specialists, electricians, restaurants. You follow my drift there. Now, each of these businesses, when we take keywords, I break keywords into 3 components, and we teach this at Local Marketing Source. This is proprietary information, the way I've broken it up, meaning that most marketing is regurgitated information. And there's no doubt that a lot of the material at Local Marketing Source is regurgitated, whether it be from my marketing school books when I went and got my degree, or my experiences that I've learned at the different corporations I've worked at, or different SEO strategies I may have learned from my days of StomperNet. But not all of it is. You take the 3 pillars of local search, and that's proprietary. You take the review acquisition system at Local Marketing Source, the 2nd pillar, that's proprietary. Keywords is also a proprietary breakdown. And so listen carefully here. A local keyword has 3 components to it. You've got a core term, which is chiropractor, chiropractic. That's it. Then you've got your core modifiers. Well, these are all the different variations: orthopedic, pediatric, scoliosis, fibromyalgia. So in my case here, my core modifiers are both symptoms and conditions, ironically. Low back pain, sore foot. In the world of an electrician, you can follow the exact same process. You can look at the different conditions and of an electrician. Well, how do you get this information? I use a thesaurus. Oh, a thesaurus has been around for how long? There's no tools that are going to beat a thesaurus. The autocomplete feature I told you about is just a compilation of what the masses are searching for. That's where you get your core terms from. You can get your core modifiers specifically from your clients. They've been in this business. They know that people come to them and say, I have a sore hip. How do they say it? That's your best research. That's your best primary research. In the world of marketing, we can conduct primary research or secondary research. And primary research is always, always, always better. And the difference is primary research is you're conducting the studies yourself to collect the information. Secondary research is going and researching information that others have already gotten. Tools are secondary research. But if I grabbed a clipboard and I walked into the mall and I gave 100 people my smartphone and I said, if you had a sore tooth, notice I'm giving them a symptom. If you had a sore tooth and you had this device called a smartphone in your hands, and you had to find somebody to help you with that tooth, what would you do? And then you would witness and document the keywords that they're using for research. That's going to give you the specific data, because keyword research is a tool across the board. One thing we know about marketing is the segmentation of audiences. Geography is a massive factor in that. Soda and pop. You go down in the South, they don't say pop, they talk about soda. You stay in the North and in Canada, they talk about pop. It's the exact same thing. But a keyword tool is going to show me that both of them are keywords. So we're going to work on optimizing for both of them. But I'm only trying to attract people that are in the North. Very few people, if anybody, is going to use the word soda. So I would be spending and wasting my time on that. Those are the problems with some of the tools that are out there. So when it comes to keyword research, I really want to understand the objective of what we're trying to achieve with keyword research and what the tools can't give you. The tools give you blanketed information in terms of volume of searches. Listen, man, I don't give 2 shits about how often a keyword is being searched. I don't care. But if it is the #1 keyword of all their keyword lists, those are the ones I'm going to optimize for. And guess what? If my clients are #1 or 2 on Google for those keywords, they're going to make money because of the local community, age factors, race, education. The list goes on and on and on of different factors that influence keywords that the tools don't tell you about. Nick, Nick, yeah, you know where I was sitting. Yeah. Mike's asking here. In terms of becoming authority in a vertical, this is awesome, guys. All right. Mike says, in terms of becoming an authority in a vertical, I'm an ex-rocket scientist with NASA and the Canadian Space Agency head. That's pretty awesome. So I wanted to concentrate on consulting rather than selling off individual services to many clients. In other words, I want fewer, very large, high revenue clients like doctors and dentists rather than many small, less value clients like plumbers. My question is, should I concentrate on clients with sales, say in $2 million to $20 million per year clients? I know I can sell these types of clients in these verticals. They could easily afford $1,000 per month and not provide any great ROI. Sorry, this is so long. And then he says something else below. He says, I asked you a question recently about setting up your own internet marketing website on a recent call. He says, I don't need one right away. Still having difficulty understanding your logic for credibility and authority, particularly in vertical. I just need a basic website. All right. All right, we got a couple of good questions here. First off, Mike, I'm not sure why you've chosen to say dentists and doctors have greater value than plumbers. I'm not sure where you're getting that information from. The reason why I say that is I happen to know somebody that focuses only on plumbers. His minimum monthly bill for these plumbers is $1,800 per month. He's built an agency to the size of $2,500,000 a year in annual revenue only from plumbers, with a sales staff of 15. He's quit his full-time job and is pulling in middle of the line 6 figures a year of profit for him, his wife, and his son. Plumbers should not be discounted. Guys that are working on garage doors. Now, you're not dealing with the one plumber that's out there, of course, and there are definitely segments and thresholds for the types of businesses that he may go after. Doctors and chiropractors, but you're on the right page. Restaurants are not a business I'm going to go after. Retail is not a business I'm going to go after. Some of the things that I'm going after in terms of businesses is, number one, are their clients, do they have a recurring revenue stream from clients? Homeowners are constantly going to need plumbers, and so do businesses. That offers recurring. I'm going after customers that have clients that have high value, high annual value to them. Chiropractor has a patient value of between $300 and $2,400 per year, on average $1,200 per year per patient. You could say the same thing about plumbing clients and whatnot. Restaurants, not so much. So there's a video that I have in the portal that discusses all the different industries. You may want to look at it and hear some of our opinions on it and how we've broken it down. Now, doctors, on the other hand, especially you being in Canada, is probably not a very good niche. Not so much here either, because a lot of that business is referral business. It's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know. And doctors do very well for those that know well, or know other people well. Dentists, chiropractors, massage therapists, all the services, cosmetologists, doctors that perform cosmetic surgeries, are all very lucrative areas. But don't discount the home services either, because there's a lot of opportunities in there. And I do believe highly in going on a vertical approach. Now, in terms of dollar amounts, You know, when I was working in the courier industry, I always asked them how many drivers they had. Just based off of the number of drivers and the type of service and the geographical region that they service in, I was able to get a very accurate estimate of the size of their business, their annual revenues. I knew what average expenses were, so I knew what their profitability was. I could turn around and probably tell you exactly how much money the owners were making just by asking those three questions. What services do you offer? Where do you deliver? And how many drivers you've got? They had no idea that I was asking them financial information and sizing them up in different ways. But I knew the business. I knew their business. I knew their business well. And there's definitely value in understanding your client's business, obviously. So depending on the industries you're going to work with, there's going to be metrics that you'll learn that will give you certain thresholds on to deal with them or to not deal with them. And if as a general rule of thumb that I've kind of uncovered is if a small business has got revenue of $250,000 or more, then they can afford my service of $1,000 a month. That's only $12,000 a year. You know, if you're bringing in $250,000 a year, and I'm asking for 12,000 of that, that's like 5% of your 5 to 6% of your revenue. That's a pretty good marketing budget. You know, businesses should probably allocate 10% of their sales revenue to marketing. And if I'm going to capture 50% of their budget, that'd be awesome. So that's generally a threshold that I would look at. And of course, you get to a larger size. You know, my largest client is Tempur-Pedic. I don't know how big they are in terms of revenue, but they're worldwide and they sell beds worldwide. They're a pretty big company. So removing that client, my next biggest client is significantly smaller than Tempur-Pedic. But my next biggest client is about an $80 million company, almost $100 million. They've got 600 employees. They're considered a medium-sized business in the United States. I ended up losing that client on a regular basis because after they started to learn about everything that I was doing for them, they hired somebody in-house to do it. Understandable. If I were the business owner, I would have done the same thing. So the thresholds that I'm finding that cannot afford to have their own marketing department, and their own marketing department is going to cost them $100,000 a year. You're going to pay a marketer $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year in salary. You got another $20,000 in taxes. You've got costs in terms of time off and uptime, and you know, just the overhead resources that are allocated to that employee. But you can say a marketing department is going to be about $100,000 a year. $100,000, if that's going to be 10% of their budget, you know, you're looking at, you know, roughly a million bucks. But then, of course, you've added on. So somewhere around the $1 million to $2 million mark is where I'm looking at. Those are your ideal clients, between $1 million and $2 million. And then as you start to get bigger than that into these small businesses, when you start to get into the $5 million mark, that's when companies can essentially really start to afford a marketing individual, a full marketing department. And your opportunities shrink. So having said that, these are just arbitrary quick numbers, and every industry is going to be a little bit different, but anywhere from $250,000 to about $5 million in size are the types of clients that we're looking for, ideally $1 to $2 million. Now, when I talk about you were talking about a website, and the purpose of my conversation when I was talking about that, Mike, was not to tell you that you don't need a website. Not to tell you to not go and make a website. That was not my objective. My objective was that a lot of people spend their time and spin their tires in areas that they shouldn't be spending their time for in a startup. And I think of a business startup like planting a tree, that when you first plant that seed and that seedling pops out of the ground, it's extremely weak and extremely vulnerable to get stepped on, to get eaten, to have its food taken away from all of the bigger trees all around it and whatnot. And so as a caretaker, you've got to really nourish and take care of that seedling. And as that seedling starts to grow and flourish and develop different flowers and develop its stronger stalk and grow bigger and turn into a little bush and then a tree, every day it just gets stronger and it's got the ability to take care of itself even more. At some point in time, that thing needs zero care, and it's just going to grow into a massive 50, 100-foot tree. And at that point in time, it can survive on its own. And that's kind of like how businesses are. And so when you're at the beginning stages, it doesn't need to have fertilizer to grow. You don't need fertilizer to grow that seedling, just like a website. You don't need that. But trust me, it's going to be a lot easier with certain tools if it's feasible in your situation. You are not a business owner until you actually have a client. So your number one focus is actually getting a client. But you're not going to be able to command the $3,000 and $4,000 and $5,000 a month until you've got a few $1,000s a month under your belt and whatnot. And yeah, if you're trying to get $5,000 a month and you don't have a website, forget about it. How are you going to get that credibility? So, I mean, I know websites are easy to put up and get up there and do whatnot. But far too often I've seen people just spend way too much time and then they're scrutinizing and then sending their website around and getting, well, what about this? And what about that? And well, what do you think about this? And so, I mean, in the beginning stages, if you're going to do it and you're going to have a website, get it up and get it up nice and just get it up and move on, and then come back to it and focus in on optimizing it when you've got more time to work on your business. Because in the beginning stages, you got to work in it. And a website is an on it type of activity. So I hope that helps. You're responding to the keyword. I hope that was good. Yeah, Mike, you're talking about, being an attorney. I agree. If you've got that experience, you get in there. Well, use those resources, Mike, if you can, like the Canada Business Directory. Curlin's asking, how would you find out if the company you are looking for makes 1 or 2 million? Well, Curlin, I mean, the more you know about an industry, the more you're able to determine some of these factors. There's a lot of different creative ways to estimate sales volume for businesses. You could utilize the U.S. government's resources. Just go to Google and type in U.S. Census, and then follow the links to the business sectors. And once you discover the NAICS code, you could figure out, the government will tell you how many competitors are in that geographical area and how many sales have been included in that geographical area. You could rank the competitors and give different weights and make estimations that way. You can just take industry holes and figure out saturation, make estimations for saturation and penetration rates for a specific geographical area, and then make an estimation for that client. You can ask them straight up, what's your annual revenue? Don't be afraid to ask them that. So if you've got more information about industries and whatnot, we could, definitely use examples and help. Yeah, Mike, that's important. And Mike, I don't like the word outsourcing. I really hate that word outsourcing. What's the difference of me having an employee in my office and then me taking that employee and saying, you're going to work from home now, but they're still my employee? How is that different than me having a contractor that is working next to my office in their home? Of course, there's differences the way the government looks at the way I handle contractors and the way I can delegate work to contractors. But that contractor now that is the same person, I even had an employee that was in the office and then all of a sudden he moved to a contractor status and worked from home. How is him any different working at home down the street than Raghu working in India? They're still contractors. If I employed him full time, maybe he's going to have 2 or 3 clients to work after. But all of a sudden, when we give the work overseas, people talk about it as outsourcing. I don't like outsourcing because I feel like outsourcing is the practice of giving skill sets and skill management and client management to somebody else. So I have contractors all over that follow the way I do things. I don't give them money and say, rank this. I remember one of my first company that I hired that I truly outsourced SEO to, and they wouldn't share any SEO strategies with me. They said, oh, these are secret and proprietary. I said, fuck that. I learned SEO. I got really, really good at it. I wanted to control what my people were doing. They're now contractors to me. I'm not outsourcing work. I think outsourcing work is hiring somebody and allowing them with their expertise to run the show how they want to run it. It's like subcontracting. How is outsourcing any different than subcontracting? Just like Apple, they outsource the development of their phones. They want to dictate. Apple's got the right to dictate the output of that product. But Apple has no right to dictate the working conditions of their workers. They could choose not to work with that company, and they can put in stringencies to say don't do these certain practices. But it's not them or their employees that are managing the process, only the output. So that's outsourcing. That's how Apple outsources a lot of the development of their products. Curlin. No, I don't have a document on that, Curlin. That might be an interesting thing. Like that's hardcore marketing that you're talking about. And I only have taught basic marketing. I only, segmentation. And now I do talk a little bit about that in the sales trail video, I believe. Okay, Mike's got something here that I'm going to check out real quickly. He's giving a link that I've never seen before or heard of. And I'm going to share with you, Curlin. He says you can use the referencegroup.com to get revenue figures. It's free, and you can search by city and vertical. Well, there you go. So I'm going to send that to everyone. You guys should have that link now. It looks like there's some US stuff on there too. And Nick is asking, what's the most recent video that we have uploaded in the, well, that would be the most recent webinar. I'm guessing Google My Business because it's been about a month. I've got to schedule next a webinar for August ASAP. Curlin saying, I don't believe that my niche, an acupuncturist, makes 1 to 2 million unless they're in a group practice. I would totally agree with that. Completely agree with that. However, in your niche, acupuncturist, okay, like take for example, Curlin, a courier company, a courier company that's $2 million a year. Their margins are 3 to 10%. Their profit margins are 3 to 10%. So a business owner that's doing $2 million a year in sales, his personal income that he's taking out of the company on maximum on the lower end is $60,000. Then he's got to pay taxes on all that stuff and whatnot. Even at the high end of 10%, that's $200,000. But that's EBIT. That's earnings before interest and tax. And once you start to talk about distribution and withholdings, a $2 million courier company, in 99% of cases, the owner would be lucky if they're taking home 80 grand. Can you imagine running a $2 million business and only taking home $75,000? It's a lot of stress, man. And managing 20 different drivers, that's a tough business those guys are in. And acupuncturists, just like chiropractors, run margins around 70% on the higher end. Lower end, you're looking at like 50 to 60% though. So they may have to hire a secretary. If an acupuncturist has a secretary or an office manager or an office space for that matter, how much money are they putting out? How much money for that office space? That's easy to find out. Office space all around is going to be anywhere from $5 to $20 a square foot. You could do the math. You could figure it out. They're probably going to spend anywhere from $1,000 for a really small office to $4,000 or $5,000 a month just for their office space. If they've got a secretary in the office that's there full time, 40 hours a week, you know that's $25,000 to $30,000 right there per year. So $3,000 a month, $36,000 a year for insurance, another $30,000, $70,000. So just to have the office and just to have one employee, there's 75 to 100 grand right there in expenses. You know that the acupuncturist is got to be making on their own at least 50 grand. If they're making less than 50 grand, they're not going to have those two other things along with them. So you can start to do the math. You could work it out that if their revenue is $150,000, $200,000, they can afford your service, and they'll be good prospects. In other words, for acupuncturists, I'd stay away from people that work out of their home, and I would look for people that have office space. That would be the only threshold I would go with. I wouldn't care about anything else. If they have office space, they're worthy of my business and they can afford $1,000 a month. Yeah, see, there you go. $200,000 to $300,000 with 10 years experience. That's beautiful. That's perfect. They're bringing in 200 grand a year as an acupuncturist. Oh yeah, they can afford your $12,000 to $18,000 a year all day long. Mike's saying the reference group is for US and Canada. He just found it today. Need to look more, but it seems like a great resource. It's probably just pulling from other sites that are out there. But that seems to come to the conclusion, guys. I don't have any more questions. I'll give you guys a few minutes. or a few seconds, to see if there's any more questions that pop up. I really, really appreciate the dialogue, and I really enjoy this, guys. These are really good questions. That's another thing. I can tell the people that engage in the questions and are really thinking hard, and like Mike, Curlin, Ed that's on the line, Nick, you guys are all going to do well. You will do well in this business. You are already doing well. But that's it. I don't have any more. Oh, wait a minute. You're welcome. Thanks, Ed. I think you're awesome too, buddy. I really do. And Curlin, I appreciate the thank you. It's Wednesdays are my favorite day of the week. Well, besides Saturday and Sundays when I'm spending my time with my family and my friends. But during the work week, Wednesdays are my favorite day because of this call. And I love it. I actually have in my hands here my first distribution, my first big distribution from Local Marketing Source. And we've been in business for 4 years, and it's been a hobby of mine. I've just reinvested back into the company and reinvested. And we've probably blown through over $500,000 in revenue. And it's kind of a hard pill to swallow when you say, well, I've never really gotten anything from it. But for 4 years, it's just, I never went into business to sell information. And I don't like being in the business of selling information, to be honest with you. But I really, really like delivering the information. Like these calls and talks and whatnot. It's just, I think it's awesome that I can share philosophies and experience, and people like it and take it and get benefit from it. Pretty neat. So, all right, guys, I'm going to end it now. We will talk to you next week. Bye for now.